Welcome back to CIA Declassified. Today we look at the sky, but not for spy planes or satellites. We're looking at the creatures that have crossed borders without passports for millions of years. In the late 1960s and 70s, the CIA realized that nature had already built the perfect undetectable reconnaissance platform, the migratory bird. While the Soviet military was busy scanning the horizon for U-2s, thousands of living sensors were flying right over their most sensitive nuclear sites. This was Project ORPHAN. It was an attempt to turn the natural world into a massive biological intelligence network. Not the first attempt by the CIA, I might add. I think we have close to a dozen episodes here of various times where the CIA has utilized animals. And I would say more often than not, they do so successfully. Anyway, be sure to check out those other episodes if you have an inclination. The agency didn't just want to watch the birds, they wanted to read the data written in their very cells. Project ORPHAN was a CIA-funded study into Bio-Telemetry, using miniaturized radio tags to track the migration patterns of birds passing through the Soviet Union. A quote from a 1972 Office of Research and Development memo. The avian subject acts as a passive collector of environmental particulates, effectively sampling the atmosphere over denied territories. End quote. The CIA specifically targeted species like the peregrine falcon and various waterfowl that nested near Soviet nuclear test sites. Scientists at the agency developed methods to analyze the feathers and blood of captured birds for traces of strontium-90 and other radioactive isotopes. The radio transmitters used in ORPHAN were so small they had to be powered by the bird's own body heat or tiny solar panels smaller than a fingernail. A quote from Dr. William Cochran, a biotelemetry pioneer. We were pushing the limits of what electronics could do, trying to make a transmitter that weighed less than a penny so the bird wouldn't even know it was there. End quote. The declassification reveals that the agency maintained a secret bird sanctuary in West Germany used as a processing station for returning subjects. Project ORPHAN analysts discovered a spike in chemical residues in the plumage of ducks flying out of the Ural Mountains, alerting the CIA to a previously unknown chemical weapons facility. The agency collaborated with the Smithsonian Institution to map the exact flyways that intersected with the Soviet air defense zones. A quote from a 1974 technical evaluation. Biological platforms provide a level of deniability that technical platforms cannot match. A bird is never a spy until it is caught. End quote. The declassification shows that the CIA experimented with implanted microphones in pigeons, though the sound of the wings flapping usually drowned out any conversations. Project ORPHAN researchers used isotope fingerprinting to trace a bird back to a specific lake in Siberia based on the mineral content in its bones. The agency developed a bird capture net that could be fired from a silent compressed air cannon to snag subjects without damaging the equipment. The documents reveal that the CIA considered using migratory birds to drop biosensors into the cooling ponds of Soviet reactors. A quote from an internal 1975 environmental intelligence audit. The feather is the ultimate air filter. It retains a chronological record of every pollutant the bird has encountered during its journey. End quote. The project was nearly compromised when a Soviet hunter killed a tagged falcon and found a property of U.S. government label inside the transmitter housing. The declassification contains the migration probability charts used to predict the best month to catch birds returning from the USSR. ORPHAN scientists discovered that birds could sense magnetic fields, leading the CIA to investigate if magnetoreception could be used for covert navigation. The agency spent 3 years trying to train ravens to steal Red Star military insignias off the hats of Soviet officers. A quote from Dr. Harold Pittman, a CIA liaison. "Nature is the ultimate locksmith. We just had to learn how to use the key," end quote. The declassification confirms that the CIA used the project to monitor the Chernobyl area years before the 1986 disaster to establish baseline radiation levels. Project ORPHAN utilized Doppler tracking stations hidden in the Himalayas to follow high-altitude geese. The agency developed a specialized bird suit for agents to wear while retrieving subjects, designed to mimic the movements of a harmless local farmer. The release highlights Project Beak, a sub-study into whether birds could be used to carry microfilm canisters across the Berlin Wall. ORPHAN analysts successfully identified a Soviet GBU biological leak by observing a mass die-off of tagged starlings in 1978. A quote from a 1976 Office of Strategic Research briefing: "The bird is the only asset that can fly over the Kremlin and be ignored by every radar in the city," end quote. The project discovered that some birds fly at altitudes exceeding 20,000 feet, making them perfect for top-down atmospheric sampling. The documents show that the CIA attempted to crossbreed certain species to create a super migrator with a more predictable flight pattern. Project ORPHAN was officially folded into a larger environmental monitoring program in the late 80s, but the bird tagging techniques are still used today. Records show that the agency used thermal imaging from satellites to locate large flocks of tagged birds at night. The release contains bioacoustic recordings of birds reacting to the sound of Soviet jet engines. ORPHAN researchers discovered that birds could be lured to specific locations using recorded mating calls broadcast from hidden CIA antennas. The declassification includes a 1973 report on avian pathogens, where the agency investigated if birds could be used as sentinels to warn of the release of man-made viruses. A quote from a 1979 Project ORPHAN internal review: "The migration of the pin-tailed duck provides a more consistent data stream than our current satellite reconnaissance of the Northern Territories," end quote. The agency successfully tracked a single snow goose for over 3,000 miles, recording chemical profiles of every major industrial center it flew over. The files show that Project ORPHAN was the first to use lithium-ion batteries in a field operation, decades before they became standard in consumer electronics. Researchers developed a synthetic pheromone to attract specific birds to CIA capture sites, ensuring they only caught the high-value migratory subjects. The agency documented that the Bio-Telemetry sensors had to be encased in a specific type of medical-grade silicone to prevent the bird's immune system from rejecting the transmitter as a foreign body. A quote from a 1971 ORD technical report: "By monitoring the heart rate and wing beat frequency of the avian assets, we can correlate sudden physiological spikes with the activation of high-intensity Soviet radar installations." Project ORPHAN utilized a fleet of mobile receiving vans disguised as European plumbing trucks to intercept bird signals as they crossed the border into NATO territory. The declassification reveals the Falcon Eye breakthrough, a miniaturized camera lens that could be attached to a hawk's head, providing the first stabilized bird's eye view of military compounds. A quote from a 1977 CIA wildlife log. Subject number 88, a mallard, returned from the Baikonur, I think I'm saying that right, Baikonur, Cosmodrome, with soot on its tail feathers. Chemical analysis indicates a recent unannounced rocket motor test. End quote. While the Bio-Telemetry records are now mostly open, a 1981 CIA file titled ORPHAN Appendix read the songbird trigger is entirely redacted. Why is the agency hiding the acoustic commands for the birds? Get ready for the theory of the avian assassin. Speculation suggests that Project ORPHAN wasn't just tracking birds, but equipping them with microscopic poison needles hidden in their feathers. The theory claims the redacted files contain the audio triggers, specific high-pitched bird calls that, when broadcast by an agent, would cause the bird to dive bomb a target and deliver a lethal dose of toxins. The black bars are believed to hide the target list of Soviet generals who died of natural causes near parks. What if the birds were drones? A dark rumor suggests the CIA successfully replaced 10% of the sparrow population with biomechanical replicas in 1972. The speculation is that the redactions hide the battery life and self-repair protocols of these robotic subjects, and the black bars are the maintenance schedules for the creatures currently sitting on your backyard bird feeder. Could the birds read your thoughts? Speculation suggests the redactions hide Project EEG Feather, where the agency found a way to use the birds' brains to relay subconscious signals from people they flew over, and the black bars hide the thought transcripts of the Soviets. Watch out for the ghost flock theory. It claims the redactions hide evidence that the CIA used psychotronics to project invisible birds into Soviet airspace to jam their radar, and the black ink covers the hallucination frequencies. What if the blood is a map? Some believe the redactions hide the homing serum, a chemical injected into the birds that turns their blood into a liquid compass that points directly to the nearest Soviet missile silo. Could they hatch a bomb? A wild rumor suggests the redactions hide Project Eggshell, where the agency developed robotic eggs that could hatch into miniaturized nuclear sensors, and the black bars are the hatching coordinates. Brace for the identity theft theory. It claims the redactions prove the agency can record the DNA of a bird and create an exact clone in a matter of hours, and the black ink covers the genetic blueprints. Some believe the redactions hide the sky eater. Speculation suggests the agency created a bird that eats information waves, effectively creating a silence zone over any area it flies, and the black bars are the digestive data. Beware the end of days rumor. It claims the redactions hide evidence that the CIA is tracking a prophetic migration that will signal the start of a global conflict, and the black bars hide the arrival date. Some speculate the black bars hide the human-bird link. The theory is that the agency found a way to remote control a human's eyes using the bird's optical nerve, and the redactions are the connection codes. Watch your wings for the isotope illusion theory. It claims the redactions hide Project Glowbird, where the agency released birds coated in a specific phosphor that only shows up on CIA cameras, turning the entire sky into an invisible grid. Is migration a code? A dark rumor suggests the redactions hide the discovery that the flight paths of birds are actually binary strings, written by an ancient intelligence, and the black bars are the decryption keys. Rumor mill alert, the cuckoo clock theory claims that the heaviest redactions hide evidence that the agency successfully implanted vocal mimicry chips in starlings, allowing them to throw their voices and frame Soviet officers by making it sound like they were whispering treason in their own offices. Is the sky a hard drive? Speculation suggests the black bars conceal Project Data Wing, where birds were used to carry quantum storage crystals in their gizzards, effectively turning every migration into a massive data dump that no encryption could break. A terrifying whisper among theorists suggests the redactions cover the stuffed subject protocol, where the agency supposedly placed taxidermy listeners in the trees of Red Square using the birds' real biological sensors to bypass Soviet electronic sweeps. Get ready for the coop theory. It suggests that the redactions hide the truth about a 1975 plan to release a flock of hallucinogenic, dust-covered birds into the Kremlin air vents to induce a state of mass paranoia during a summit. And lastly, what if the birds were the currency? Speculation posits that the redacted chapters describe how the agency hid microdots of high-value nuclear codes inside the calcium of bird eggs, turning every nest into a secret dead drop for deep cover assets. Was Project ORPHAN a success? Scientifically, it was a revolution. The bio-telemetry data gathered by the agency fundamentally changed our understanding of migration and environmental health. Intelligence-wise, it was a quiet triumph. The declassification shows that feather sampling was one of the only ways the U.S. could detect low-level Soviet chemical leaks that were invisible to satellites. It was a success that proved that sometimes the best way to outsmart a superpower is to let a duck do the work for you. As far as technological and operational breakthroughs go, the lessons of ORPHAN turned the natural world into a laboratory. Miniaturized radio frequency tags, the direct ancestors of the RFID chips in your credit cards. Environmental isotope mapping, a new way to track pollution and nuclear activity across global borders. Low power data transmission, techniques for sending signals over long distances with almost zero battery usage. And bioacoustic surveillance, the ability to use the natural chorus of a forest to hide the sounds of covert electronic equipment. Project ORPHAN reminds us that in the world of intelligence, everything is a sensor. The birds in the sky, the fish in the sea, the air you breathe, it's all part of the data stream. The next time you see a flock of birds heading south, don't just admire the view. Ask yourself, what are they carrying? And who is waiting for them to land? Thanks for listening. Join us next time we examine the great seal bug. The Soviets gave a gift that kept on giving. We'll uncover the history of the thing, a passive cavity resonator hidden inside a wooden Great Seal of the United States. We'll look at how this masterwork of Soviet engineering sat in the American ambassador's study for 7 years, listening to every secret without ever needing a battery or a wire. Join us next time for the gift of silence. In the meantime, I'll see you in the archives.